What is up, guys? Zach here from the Chaos Galaxy. Today I'm doing the Set 5 planet profile for the sky planet of Rokah. I'm going to start with an introduction to the planet and show you all the best cards for the planet so far before I get into these brand new Set 5 cards we've got over here. And then after that, I'll do a deep dive into the strategies of all the cards, so you'll be a master of the planet by the end of the video. So, Rokah is the second furthest planet away from the sun, and its strategy is all about messing with your opponent's strategy rather than having its own identity. You just sort of troll your opponent, ruin their plans, and win the game through the power of that. So, the planet reads, at the end of your turn, if you have a zoned Rokah creature, your opponent must permanently reveal one random card in their hand, which just sort of gives you the knowledge to mess with your opponent's plays and help out the planet. So in set 1, Rokah introduced cards like Guster, which is one of the best 4 stars in the game, allowing you to remove an opponent's zone when it's played. Still sees a ton of play today. As well as Zinza, which has only started to see play recently, but it's got 150 power, which means you get 2 points for an attack with a 2-star creature, which is very strong. And then the legendary Floating Rock with non-floating rock on top, one of the fan favourite cards in the game. Doesn't see much competitive play, but still funny. Set 2 introduced the Weathermen, one of the first archetypes for the game, which doesn't see too much play, but I think they're still worthy of a mention. We've also got Wildwing, which got voted the biggest meme card in the game by the fact that every time I open a pack of Set 2, I seem to pull one. Set 3 introduced the first Chaos piece for the game, Terracon of Rokah, an amazing card with great stats, which lets you cosplay your killed Rokah creatures. We also saw 4-starred Feather, which lets you add a Galaxied 4-star Rokah creature to your hand. Cards like Guster and the Weathermen go great with this. And set 4, we saw Garud Overseer, which lets you free play himself if your opponent has 2 or more revealed cards in their hand, which is pretty easy with the planet ability. FaceTime sees a lot of play outside Rokah decks, being able to go through 2 attacks before being killed. We then saw the Rokah starter deck, which introduced the Dustrog creatures. These are a fairly strong archetype, and Dark Matter Dustrog is one of, if not the best, starter deck boss monster in the entire game. It also introduced Melorock Valley, which lets you kill one of your opponent's cards if they have 3 or more revealed cards. I also just love the artwork on this card too. And now to the brand new stuff. So the first card we got I showed in my set 5 preview. It's Feather Hammer with 4 stars, 250 power and 110 health. So it can attack for 3 points, which is very relevant, especially with its ability that reads it can attack without entering a battle zone. And it's a super Mexican-inspired card. I'll show you a picture of the card, the thing in the museum that it was inspired by. The next card we have is Clutter, who is a little guy based on a cuttlefish. 60 power and 120 health for 2 stars. And if this zone creature is killed by a card ability, you gain 3 stars. So if it's an opponent's Galaxy Crash or something. And Rokah does have ways of being able to kill it for a positive benefit. So this is the first sort of star gaining card for Rokah. There's definitely some combos that you can pull off where this card will become pretty useful. Next up, these are the ones I've been looking forward to most. It's like a mini archetype. I've said in set 5 I'm not going to be making too many archetypes because it kind of sucks if you buy 1 or 2 packs, you get half the cards for the archetype and not the other half, and you're just ending up with a few useless cards. So this is a 2-card archetype called the Scardians, and I freaking love their artwork. I'm going to show you them both at the same time. So we've got Scardian of the Sun and Scardian of the Moons. Now, they're both rares in set 5, and these are, again, based off very Mexican old mine statues. I'll put a picture up of them now. But these are some of my favourite cards in the set. Sun and Moons are kind of opposite, so they've got opposite stats. Guardian of the Sun has 440 power and only 40 health. Guardian of the Moons has only 40 health and 440 power. They're both 6 stars, and Guardian of the Sun, which we'll talk about first, reads, you can only have 1 zoned Scardian. So you can't have them both on your planet at the same time. You can only have 1 zoned Scardian. This zoned card cannot be killed by activator cards. And at the end of your turn, you can shuffle this zoned creature into your galaxy to free play 1 Galaxied Scardian. So he'll be on your planet for your turn with his 440 power, immune to activators, great for attacking. And then after your turn finishes, it's like the sun going down, and Scardian of the Moons will come out for your opponent's turn. So it's like the sun going down and the moon coming up, and then at the end of your turn, you play the moon, and he reads, you can only have 1 zoned Scardian. This zone card cannot be killed by resource cards. At the end of your opponent's turn, you can shuffle this zoned creature into your galaxy to free play a Galaxy's Guardian. So your opponent's turn, he's got really high health, can't be killed by resources like Galaxy Crash, Abandonment, all that stuff. And then at the end of your opponent's turn, he's going to go back into your galaxy, and the sun's going to come out again on your turn. And again, he's got his high power. So it's almost like there's sort of one creature that's got 440 power and 440 health that's immune to resources and activators. I think these guys are going to be super strong. It's a super interesting concept. I really like their artwork. And yeah, these are probably my favorite things about Rokah in set 5. It's one of those archetypes where it's just 2 cards, but I think you could build an entire deck around them, which is something that I love in TCGs. Oh my god, I don't know if you can hear, but my laptop sounds like it's completely overheating. You probably can because it's right next to my microphone and it'll be taking up all the sound. Let me just move the mic a bit. Next up, we've got a 7-star common card. Quite a lot of high-starred creatures for Rokah this set, but this is the Floating Temps of Temp Floaty. If you don't know, in set 4 there was a card called Floating Temples of Temp Floaty, where once per turn, if you've got no cards in your hand, you gain a point and 2 stars. But it's quite hard to pull off, so I've made the Floating Temps of Temp Floaty, who are just temps who work at the temple. And this reads, you can free play this card by killing all your other handed cards as a minimum of 1. And when you do, you can play 1 Galaxied permanent resource. Straight up play it from your deck. This is the first card in the game that can do this. And if you have another zoned Temp Floaty card, so the temples, he gains 300 health. So he goes up to a 340, 400 beast that you can free play and get yourself a free Temp Floaty. So you'll be gaining points and stars every turn. I don't know how strong this strategy is going to be. Temp Floaty was a very weird resource card, but a lot of people started messing around with it in set 4, so I thought it'd be interesting to make another support card for it. But it is also generic because you can use its abilities to bring out any permanent resource. Next up, the first artwork by Gavora for this video is Kinzeki, who's a 4-star with 180 power and health. Really sick artwork from Gavora as usual. And he reads, if you have no other handed cards, you can free play him and draw 1 card. So this kind of goes with Temp Floaty again, but like I said, it is generic, so it can work in any deck that just doesn't have a lot of cards in hand. Which brings us to our final creature of the video. Don't worry, we've got a lot more support cards to come. But the final creature is Coluclaw, sort of halfway between a dinosaur and a bird. I don't really know what I was going for, but he's got 120 power, 190 health, and 4 stars, like a lot of Rokah creatures. And he reads, after this creature is killed by an opponent's attack, you can free play one of your killed 4-star or lower Rokah creatures, except Coluclaw. So he's going to be a really good bit of Rokah help. You can bring out Featherhammer, Kinzeki, a lot of the Weathermen, some of the Dustrogs too. Really good generic card that just helps out the planet a lot. So those are all the creatures, and look at that, I've spaced these out perfectly evenly once again. But we've got some support cards to get through. The first of which is a regular resource card called the Eye of Evilness, which reads, simply kill 1 revealed card in your opponent's hand. The planet Rokah is often considered to have one of the weakest abilities of all the planets. Just revealing your cards doesn't really change the state of the game, but the Eye of Evilness can change all that by actually killing one of the cards that's revealed. Although it's a generic card, it definitely works best in Rokah, so I thought it was best to show it off in this planet profile. The next one we have is another regular resource card, which is once again generic, and this is the Angry Totem, where you just kill 1 zoned creature, so it's a good bit of removal that will always work, and then your opponent draws 1 card and you can only attack with 1 creature this turn. I don't know if this will see play because it does have some drawbacks, but a new bit of removal is always quite nice to see. Next up, Whirlwind Wings. Now this is specific Rokah support, an attachment card that reads, attach only to a Rokah creature, and every time an opponent's handed card is revealed, the attached creature gains 50 power and health and you gain a star. There is a card in set 1, however, that makes both players reveal all their handed cards straight away. So if you play that and your opponent has like 6 stars, your creature's going to gain like 300 power and health and you're going to gain 6 stars too. So this is a crazy combo that's probably not amazing on its own, this card, as a Rokah player. But if you want to make some crazy like 1-turn kill deck where your opponent draws loads of cards and you play this and just win, I'd love to see that happen. One more card to show in this video, which is a generic activator card called Meteor Blaster. And you can see there's a Bowl-Eyed Comet crashing into a Croagorok Comet. 2 cards that are made to kill permanent resource cards. And when an opponent's card ability would kill 1 or more of your zoned resource or attachment cards, you cancel that card's ability and then permanently if it's a creature or permanent resource card. So if you're trying to protect something like a Temp Floaty, your opponent will play a card that kills it. You can just activate a Meteor Blaster in your hand. If you've got one in your hand, you know you'll be safe from anything your opponent will try to pull off. Okay, so now let's go to the deep dive. And we can start with Feathammer. I've shown this card before, so I won't spend too long, but basically 4 points for an attack, and you don't need to buy a Battle Zone. It is also immune to 2 of the best activator cards in the game, Beast of the Black Hole and Planetary Field, which probably are the best 2 activators in the game, which just makes it great. Definitely going to see some play, and a really unique ability that I'm happy about. Next up, Clutter. A simple card, and it's just another target for the ultimate betrayal of non-floating rock, and when you do that, you'd gain 3 stars. I think this might see a bit of play, but that's the only big combo I can really see it working with. Next up, the Scardians. I really love these cards. I think they'll obviously only see play with each other because they need each other to work, really. And I think these could make an entire deck in themselves. 440 power is a very high stat, kind of defining the meta at the moment for getting past cards like Great Serpent of the Palifals. It can get past a Meltalon. It can get past most of the Chaos Beasts. A really, really strong pair of cards. Also, the stat imbalance means it's going to combo really well with cards like Solarmancer, which will probably be something you use in the deck. The fact that you can only have 1 out is a bit of a drawback. If you use 2 copies of each, you might get some dead draws a bit of the time, but there's cards like the Mystical Relics that shuffle things back into your deck, and I do think these guys are going to be meta. These, like, 2 copies of each Scardian, it's just 4 cards in a deck, and they make up a big strategy on their own. So really cool to see these, and I think they'll definitely be used. I don't even know if they'll just be thrown into like Gaios decks or something, or Barrow decks, because they kind of have that nature about them. And then obviously their immunity too to Beast of the Black Hole, with Guardian of the Sun, and immunity to Galaxy Crash with Guardian of the Moons. Very, very tough to get past. It's quite pretty good control cards. Next up, the Floating Temps of Temp Floaty. I don't even think I know enough about my own game to know if these cards will be good or not. I thought Temp Floaty was completely useless when I made it, but it did manage to, I think, top a tournament, which is crazy. And the Temps, I think, will add to that strategy. 400 health makes it pretty strong. It can also kill things like a Pelfam, a Sheosian Lava Behemoth, a Dare. A lot of meta cards, 340 power gets past them, and you're playing it for free, so I'm sure you guys can make something work with this card. Similarly, Kinzeki, don't know, again, there's not too much to say about this. It's just going to work in those decks where you don't have a lot of handed cards. I don't know if it could work with some kind of like Burrowbug deck where you're discarding a lot of stuff from your hand and make it easy to have 0 cards in hand. And then you just play out a Kinzeki, go +1 or whatever. And then Colluclaw, I think, is a fantastic generic Rokah card that's going to be used in every Rokah deck, like Weathermen, Dustrogs, just generic stuff alike. Like, Rokah uses so many 4-star creatures, and this card is great for bringing them out. Stats aren't great. 190 health is kind of relevant, and 120 power is good for getting past anything really weak, like Thorngaborg, flipped Aditrox, like that sort of stuff. Eye of Evilness, I could see 1 copy being run in a lot of Rokah decks. Just being able to kill a card in your opponent's hand before it becomes a problem, like any good activator, this card gets past that. Similar to the way in which Dark Matter Dustrog does. So you're just going to be picking away at your opponent's plans before they can pull them off, which is fantastic. The Angry Totem, I could see this seeing a lot of side deck play. Against things like Polysium, it's going to be good, being able to kill their creatures. And the cost, I think, is interesting. Your opponent drawing a card is good in the sense that you'll always be able to play this card. It's not like you won't have enough stars or you don't have anything to discard. Just your opponent drawing a card, that will always be able to happen. And although it is a bad thing, it just makes this card consistent and reliable. Only attacking with 1 creature isn't a lot of problems for a few decks. So I wouldn't be surprised if this card saw play. Whirlwind Wings, a card that at first glance I think you wouldn't think it's strong at all, but the combo with the Relihex Power Crystal, where if your opponent has a lot of cards in hand, revealing them, and your creature gaining like a couple hundred power or health and you gaining a load of stars, could see OTKs. And I don't know if this will be good enough to see play, but I'm sure someone will make a deck out of it. Then Meteor Blaster. Just made this because a lot of people asked for protection for permanent resource cards, so that's what I've made. Could see play in decks like Zeta Rays, which rely on their permanent resource card. Temp Floaty as well, which was why I thought it was relevant to come in this set. Night Jungles, although I don't know if Night Jungles would use this really. But just a card that I think is needed for the game, whether it'll see play or not. I do think it's necessary to have. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you think of these cards in the comments section or discuss them on the Discord. There'll be a link in the description, and loads of people have been discussing or posting their own breakdown videos actually of the cards that they've seen for set 5, so they're really interesting to watch if you want to know more. Personally, my favourite card is Scardian of the Sun. I love the artwork, and the ability of the Scardians I think are going to be super strong in set 5. Colo Claws, fantastic as well. But let me know what you think. Please like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram. Set 5 should be out soon and more Planet profiles on the way. Thanks for watching. See ya.